Talk to Vlad.
Talk to Vlad.
Talk to Vlad. Talk to Vlad.
Talk to Vlad. Or secrets they will never tell.
Hello, my dear friends, and welcome back to Talk to Vlad, or Secrets They Will Never Tell, a show where I will spill the beans on everything and anything. I have so much to share with you and so many stories to tell, but I think it will be the best if I will start by telling my own story. This way, you, my dear viewers and listeners, could get a better idea of who I am. And in this episode, I will tell you where I was born and how I got to where I am. This story will be broken down into 2 episodes, and here how it's all started. Episode title, Being Born Far Away, or How Did I Get Here? As you already know, my name is Vladimir and I'm 30 years old. I'm saying this as if age means anything at all. However, this is my story. I was born on Kunashir Island. This is a part of the Kuril Islands, the last island in Russia and the first island in Japan. Kunashir Island is located 12 miles away from Hokkaido. It's a very small island with a lush nature. It's almost dreamy. Pacific Ocean on one side and the Japanese Sea is on another side, with 4 active volcanoes placed pretty much equally along the island. There you have hot springs, volcanic mud that is rich in minerals, around 12 microclimates, which means traveling through the island, the flora will constantly change. So this is the place where I was born into a family of 3 people: my mom, dad, and older brother. I cannot say that my childhood was limited, but there is a part where we didn't have access to the internet, nor had we heard about the mobile phones until 2008 or so. TV, that was very limited, with only 3 channels, and that's it. The only way to discover things was to talk to people or read the books. Population of Kunashir Island in 1993 was around 9,000 people, and then, after a massive tsunami in 1994, only 5,000 people were left. Some of them were gone, and some of them just moved with their families to the mainland, as they didn't feel safe. How did my parents end up there? That's a very special story. My parents weren't born on Kunashir Island. They moved there in the late 80s. My father was born in central Russia, in a small city somewhere near the Ural Mountains, and my mom is from north of Russia. She got married for the first time when she was 16, but it didn't go well, and after divorce, her mother didn't let her come back. You know, it was different times, and she was told, "You left me here and ran off with this man, so go back where you left and don't come back here expecting me to take you back." She had no other choice but to get a job on a cruise liner as a buffet attendant and clean rooms to earn some extra money. There were 2 guys who started flirting with her. One of them was the captain of this liner, and the other was a young deckhand. One day, when the cruise liner stopped in the harbor of a big city, my mom and my father paid a small bribe to local authorities so they could register their marriage quickly. Otherwise, they would have to wait for many months to get married, but kind people helped them. And when they got back to the ship, my father packed their luggage, and as the ship started to move from the harbor, he jumped on a pier and told her, "Let's go!" She was like, "But where?" He said, "To my parents' place, and then we will decide something else." "But what if they don't accept us?" "No worries, my love. We will run to the end of the world and find our home there." She jumped after him to the pier. Somehow she knew it was the right thing to do. The captain, who stood on the deck, and as you can guess by now, that wasn't my father, shouted at her, "If you don't come back here right at this moment, it's over. And I know you will be begging me to take you back, but I won't do it, so don't make this mistake now." She jumped to the pier after my father. Somehow she knew it was the right thing to do. As expected, my father's parents didn't accept them, and as they agreed back on that pier, they traveled to the farthest places they could find back then, the Kuril Islands, where my father would eventually become a captain on a ship, my personal hero. Overall, I had a very happy childhood. My parents loved each other, and I grew up not knowing if we were rich or poor, as we always had food on our table. We had a car, and my mom would buy new earrings from time to time, so I guess we were were okay. I went to a local school where I was the worst student until the second grade. I have been moved from the class A to class B to class C. I can't call myself a difficult kid. It's just that no one clearly explained to me why I needed to study and why I should be the best amongst them until the second grade, when I saw my classmates who were the best of the class receiving white envelopes. And here I got to realize the best students are receiving actual money. I still didn't know if I needed that, but the fact that someone is getting it and I'm not made me curious. So here I am, naturally reading faster than anyone in the class, solving equations that are not for my age to solve. I started to feel rush. Faster, smarter, better, cooler. And here I am standing in front of the whole school next quarter and receiving my envelope and the certificate of encouragement saying that I'm the best in my class. I started reading a lot. The only access to the outer world I got was library. Thanks to my parents who loved reading and I would often spot them reading another book, they gave me a great example and understanding that books are cool and reading is fundamental. When I got my first money, I went to a music store and bought 2 cassettes with hits at that time. It wasn't an easy choice, I have to tell you. I wanted to get so many cassettes, so many hours of music. Some of it I didn't even know, but it looked cool anyway. I had to make choice, and this choice must be strategic. Years passed by, and in the 7th grade I went to annual 1st of September school meeting, where we were meant to come all dressed up with flowers, ready for a new school year. I looked at my classmates and I realized that I'm not interested in spending any more time with them. I can't see the reason why I should spend my time at school when I can go to the cliff by Pacific Ocean and read Don Quixote or another travel adventure. I wasn't thinking about what's gonna happen if my mom and dad would figure out that I'm skipping school until one day my mom told me in the morning, "Get ready, I'm gonna drop you to the school." And here I told her that I've been skipping school for a couple of months by now. She asked me why, and my answer was, "I don't feel like it." My mom was the coolest person ever, literally. She asked me, "Do you want to change your school?" And I said, yeah, perhaps. That's it. No drama, no talks about how bad I am for skipping school, no punishment. She just get it. And even though my answer was, "I don't feel like it," that wasn't the greatest answer. She felt what I was going through. Thanks, Mom. I love you. I really, really do. She made a call to work to say that she would be late that day. I got ready and we went to pick up my documents. Obviously, the headmaster wasn't happy to learn that one of his best students is actually leaving the school, but he made sure to let us know that I will always be welcome to return. And that's how I went to a new school, Center of Education, a school where students can come only when they're grade 7 and above. It was a really small school. Classrooms were so tiny, it could accommodate at around 10 students at the time, and the whole school was for around 80 to 100 people. It was like 6 of us in a class, and there was no class A or B or C, it was just one class. But this is what I got from it, a personal attention. All the teachers were surprised that I had moved to the school, but they were all so nice to me. They have never asked me why, instead they tried to understand who I am and what approach do I need. They liked me, I liked them back. Simple as it is. One day the headmaster asked me if I want to participate in the annual talent show where kids from the other islands compete in dance, music, singing and reading poetry. I was up to it and I challenged myself writing a piece that I will be performing with. The headmaster herself invited me to her house and rehearsed the whole thing with me again and again, over and over, until it has been decided that I'm ready to represent the school. She believed in me and I didn't even know what believing means. I did it. I won the 2nd place. And the next year, I took the 1st place. My biology teacher asked me once if I have any interest in protecting nature and invited me to gather garbage on the beach. We did it a few times and the next thing I know, the whole school was supporting us. Newspapers writing article about us and the government provided the whole army force to support our green mission. I finished school and went to the university on Sakhalin Island, 1.5-hour flight from my home. Due to the best marks I got from school, they even offered to pay for my education, for which I was grateful, as I knew that my parents would have to work really hard to pay the rent, plus their education, plus the pocket money. At uni, I became the best again, participated in every activity that came across, acting challenges, talent show. I was the host at university radio station, and yes, I got the job in the fanciest Japanese restaurant in the city, where I was told discipline and responsibilities. Thank you to all my mentors back then. One day I will elaborate on every name. It happened that I got an opportunity to elevate my studies in Japan. I took this opportunity, and here I am, my very first international adventure. This is actually where the real adventures began. Spirits of adventures! Imagine 18 years old me traveling to Japan, having a bare idea of what's that gonna be. We were studying Japanese language and international communications. In Japanese! Every morning an old lady would come into the class and explain how she cooked her breakfast, step by step in Japanese, so we could understand the structure of the sentences. Then we would practice alphabet and try to make small sentences. Bit by bit, day by day, and then I was able to go to local stores and do groceries, make some sentences in the languages I just started learning. I was trying to watch news, listen to radio, and at some point the realization came that these people are saying the same thing that in the place where I come from, but just in different words. Just I realized that, another realization came. I got overburned. It's this feeling where you merely don't want to do anything, you don't want to understand why everything is so complicated, and why does it require so much effort for me to achieve anything? Why can't everything be so simple? I started looking for answers, and I found them thanks to my calm mind and artistic mentality. It took me a couple of bottles of Japanese Suntory whiskey and a lack of possibilities to talk to people I know over Skype due to the time difference. So here I found music. I started to listen to what people have to sing. I started reading translations, trying to understand the deep meanings of it. Here I came across Muse, my favorite band ever since. I was shooken how cool these guys are, how beautiful their music. They made me remember another time how wide is the world and how much its philosophy is hidden in the places least expected. So one day I decided to leave the campus, jumped into the last wagon of the subway and went to Sapporo city center. Spirits of adventures! I walked into the night streets of Sapporo. Lights, people, music, everything was so overwhelming. And I took a course to the main shopping street, Tanuki Koji, where I learned the creative teenagers were hanging out, dancers, musicians, and just cool kids. Here I met Maya Suna, the girl band of two people, Maya and Suna. Together, Maya Suna. They invited me to the rock concert. The whole night was like a splash of colorful pictures and vivid emotions. The only thing I kept thinking of was, would be so nice to be fluent, so I could ask them so many questions and also get to know them better. Morning came, and there I was at 4:45 at the subway station, waiting for the very first train to go back to the campus, knowing that I will be back. I will be back to ask them these questions, realizing that communication is the key, and I got this key. I just need to modify it so it would suit the look I want. When my studies in Japan came to an end, I was a different person. Practically, I was still the same Vlad, cheerful, happy, philosophically advanced. But now, I knew what I was looking for. I am looking for the greatest conversation ever, with the most diverse people, people from all around the world. And I knew back then, and as I know it for now, it might take a life, but all the stories will be united in one, and I will be the silver lining. I got back to the country where I was born to. The language wasn't the same as before, as I found that some sentences and even paragraphs can be exchanged with one Japanese word. So I quickly got bored and decided to plan my next trip. Spirits of adventures! Now I wanted to see something opposite Japan, and I chose Canada to see Niagara Waterfall and Cirque du Soleil. One day before my flight, I got news that my visa was rejected, and there I was at the touristic agency, just learned that I could only get back 25% of the flight tickets. And I asked them, where can I fly visa free for the money refunded? Travel agent looked at her screen, typed something, then said, Vietnam, one way. Without any further ado, I got my one-way ticket. I didn't know where I was going. I didn't even know when I will be back. I had no idea what Vietnam is about. I had only one friend that at this moment have been to Vietnam. I called him and I told him that I'm going to Vietnam. He said, I'm in China now. I will be in Vietnam in a couple of days. Meet me in Saigon and we will see what's after. Boris, thank you. You were just the right person. All I needed to hear is green light. You go. We've met, had a breakfast and a quick catch up on things. And it has been decided. Nha Trang, city by the beach, full of tourists and never-ending paradise. Yes, the city is small, but the things are moving 24/7. After months of my life in Vietnam and posting never-ending pictures from the beach and jungles, my friends and family started to ask me, when are you coming back? I had no answer, because I merely didn't know. I was there and life seemed nice and easy. The season seems to be not changing at all. I still had some money and I wondered, what if I could find a job in some restaurants around and stay here for a little longer? And so I did. I was working for the coolest French-Canadian family in the oldest rooftop bar in the whole Vietnam. I remember it like now. It was a great time of my life. Nicolas, Arnaud, Sylvester, Claudine, Frederick, you became a family to me. You gave me a roof over my head. And I know for a fact that I did my absolute best to pay you back. With Boris, we traveled through the whole Vietnam, city by city, village by village. And I remember that as soon as we would return from one trip, we would start planning the next one right away. We didn't have much money, but that never stopped us. We would hitchhike, take buses, or ride our motorcycles for days. One day, I remember, a massive truck stopped, and using all my knowledge of Vietnamese language, I explained that we need to go to the city in the mountains where the coffee plantations are. And since the driver was heading in the same direction, he offered us to jump on the back of the truck, where he had some fresh cheese and milk. He was a local farmer who wanted to sell some of it at the market in the city we were heading to. Oh boy, those were great times, full of adventures. We had no money, but we had so much fun. Boris would always bring home some wild animals. Once we found an owl stuck in a tree and we brought her home. Her wing was broken, so she couldn't fly or hunt. We took her in, and one of our neighbors was a girl who had an eagle living at her place. She hooked us up with the vet, who helped us and explained where to get food for owls. Once her wing was healed, she flew away. But she came almost every day to get food as she get used to it. Another day, Boris brought home a lemur because a Vietnamese man in the city center told him that if Boris didn't buy this lemur, this man would take it to the forest and kill it, and he only wanted $2. I guess it was sort of a business for this man to sell animals to tourists, and I bet he would never kill the lemur, but Boris has a big heart, and he would never allow this man to harm this little tiny creature. The lemur was so slow during the day and so fast during the night, with big eyes and fluffy. He or she, I still don't know, liked eating tomatoes, and it was just adorable. One day, we let him free into nature. Here in Nha Trang city, I learned scuba diving, and the first book I've ever read in English was National Dive League Open Water Course. Scuba diving took a special place in my life. I remember my routine. I would work until very late night behind the bar, and then after a few hours of sleep, I would wake up at around 4:30 a.m., jump on the bike and go to the storeroom, where I will start packing equipment not only for myself, but also for other students, who were mostly tourists passing through the city. It was a special kind of fun. My dive instructor would send me a list of the divers for the day and their sizes for wetsuits and fins, and I'll be like, okay Jessica, size L, it's time to get packing. After packing all the equipment and loading it on the truck, we would drive to the harbor, unload the truck, carry the equipment to the boat, where it will be carefully tied up. We would have a 40-minute cruise to the dive spot called Madonna Rock, a place that eventually became one of my favorite places on earth. It's called Madonna Rock after the famous video clip of Madonna, where she was wearing the iconic cone bra. It was two massive rocks rising above the water that looked just like Madonna's bra, only times bigger. Right after the second dive, we would have lunch, and most of the time it was simple Vietnamese food like rice and meat, some vegetables, and of course, lots of tropical fruits for dessert. It was delicious. Surrounded by water on the sunny days, we would sit on a deck under the shade, discuss what we have seen underwater, all the fish, nudie branches, and all other things in details, their colors and how they acted. Those were good days, and I'm looking forward to coming back and experiencing it again. But this time, I will be one of those tourists. In Nha Trang, in the small city full of tourists who were passing for a day or a week or spending winter season there, I have learned a lot about other countries and their mentalities, accents, pronunciations, food, drinks, traditions, and slightly about religions, as back then I didn't know how impactful it is and how much it actually means to people. So, where I am now and how did I get here? More about that you will hear in the next episode, as it's all started with a broken heart. When they say that love is the most powerful thing in the universe, they're right. They're absolutely right. And I always knew that. If I only knew what they actually meant. If I only knew. Currently, I live in the Gulf region, and I guess that you're wondering now, how did you get there? But that's a story that has nothing to do with anything but the power of love and how far you can get when the heart is calling. So stay tuned, my friends. Next week's episode, First Love, a movie or undirected heartbreak. Thank you for listening. Don't forget to like, subscribe, and I will see you next Friday.